Hello and welcome back to the AT Chat. Today I wanted to talk a bit about all of the news coming down the pipeline regarding The Mandalorian and all of the potential characters coming into Season 2. But first, if you are new here, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and follow me on Twitter so you can stay updated with my content. Now, for me, the first season of The Mandalorian, or as I call it, Mando Dads, was essentially flawless. Yeah, there was a dud in the middle of the season for me, but beyond that one episode, this show was exactly what I wanted out of an anthology series. New stories, new people, new stakes. If Lucasfilm is going to explore what Star Wars can be beyond its connection to the Sith, Jedi, and Galactic Rebellion, The Mandalorian was exactly how you do it. And of course, there are some bits of fan service for those people like myself who are obsessed with all of Star Wars. But ultimately, The Mandalorian was created in such a way that you don't need to know too much about anything to find the story engaging or worth your time. You get the gist real quick that this is a time of chaos across the galaxy. That's kind of all you need to know. So much of the show is dedicated to this post-Empire era, even though the show shares cosmetic similarities with the original trilogy. But that was always going to be a given to me. Although the story is fresh, it of course needed an anchor in some way, and that anchor was the story's visual language, which is kind of insane when you factor in that most of The Mandalorian's principal photography took place in one room using Unreal Engine and stagecraft. What? And I'd argue that as a whole, The Mandalorian was more fulfilling to me as a Star Wars fan than the entire sequel trilogy when I look back on it, which is something I never thought I'd ever even utter. But that also leads into my point of concern, because yes, I'm worried that what makes The Mandalorian work so well might get lost in the fray because of the cameo craze. It sounds like The Mandalorian is potentially going to be overstuffed with some member berries. So far, we have heard that Ahsoka Tano will be making her live-action debut, being portrayed by Rosario Dawson. Then we got news about Boba Fett and Captain Rex reprising their roles as well. Both characters are said to be portrayed by Temuera Morrison. And truth be told, I loved what he did as Jango Fett, so perhaps in that regard, we might be seeing some interesting Mando standoffs. Who knows? And finally, the last thing that I heard was that Bo Katan was going to be portrayed by Katie Stackhoff, who was also the voice of the animated character on both Clone Wars and Rebels. Also, she is just a legend to me. I will always love Starbuck. So sure, at face value, all of that stuff sounds cool, but this is my concern. Adding 4 characters with that much significance into the second season of a show that was wildly successful might cheapen what makes the show great. We just got done learning about the main players over the course of 4 hours. So I'm worried that these new characters are going to be used as easy deus ex machinas, so when trouble arises, the show can be like, oh, don't worry, Ahsoka has shown up to use the Force, and she has a lightsaber to save the day. And sure, do I want to see Ahsoka Tano in live action? Of course, but only if there is an actual narrative cohesion between her introduction and the season at large. I'm not really into that wink wink, remember me kind of thing. So yeah, that basically goes for every other character that was mentioned. I find it super strange that Boba Fett would even show up in The Mandalorian. For me, it seems wildly unnecessary, since I never even had that much of a desire to see Boba Fett in anything. To me, Boba Fett is just a toy. And with The Mandalorian front and center, I feel like Boba Fett will be just a weird distraction potentially. And I could also be wrong, and maybe he'll be amazing. Who knows? I have to imagine that Ahsoka, Captain Rex, Bo Katan are all somehow going to be involved with the same storyline based on their shared history across the Clone Wars and Rebels. But as I said, I just want this to be more than a, hey, that's Bo Katan, neat. Hey, that's Captain Rex, neat. Hey, that's Boba Fett, half digested because he just spent 7 years inside of a Sarlacc pit. Wow. Maybe there will be some big all-out duel between the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Bo Katan, Rex versus Moff Gideon for the Darksaber. After all, I'd have to assume that if Bo Katan is back in the fold, she'd be after the Darksaber in the Beskar that the Empire stole. I just don't want the show to get so worried about pleasing the fans with fan service and cameos that we end up with another Rise of Skywalker situation on our hands, where it's a visually pleasing experience that feels super hollow due to how much happens in such a short runtime because of how many people are in the movie. My hope is that these 4 additions, if they're all true, will do nothing but add to the mythos being created around The Mandalorian and his quest. It's nice to pay homage to things that we have seen before, but it's time for Star Wars to move beyond being obnoxiously self-referential about it being Star Wars. I mean, honestly, if it were me, I'd have the Mandalorian end up at some random Zepho temple to really add some weirdness to the mix, but hey, that's just me. So either way, I'm super excited to be learning about Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and even Season 3 is apparently being written as we speak. So at least we know the creators feel very confident about Season 2 and these potential additions to the cast. Let's just hope that whatever this is all going to be is something that we haven't seen before. That's my favorite thing about The Mandalorian, how they use things familiar but in a brand new way. So that's really it. May the Force be with you. AT-AT is signing off.